All right. Back by unpopular demand, whether you like this or not, it's going to get said. You're going to hear it. It's going to be what you need. You feel me? So let's just get this thing started. All right, let's not even play. Let's stop playing. You heard? Let's stop playing. Let's stop playing. So, what's today? Topic of tonight. Jump on in here. I'm going to give y'all some time, really. I'm going to give y'all some time. I'm going to give y'all a little bit before I really set it off. Give y'all a little bit before I set it off. Just go ahead and click that live button so you can be up in here. So, yeah, listen. Back again by unpopular demand. It is the one and only, the urban luminary, Omaka the light. I am the light. And that's a fact. I am the light. Let's talk about something real quick, though. Check this out. We're finna go deep. We're finna peel the onion back. We're finna peel the banana peel back on this so y'all can hear me and hear me clearly. The natural man and woman, excuse me, because I need to get my throat cleared on this one. So I have my tea while I talk to y'all. I don't need no reason to have a parched throat while I talk to y'all. The natural man and woman has lost their way, and that's why we can't heal each other. Y'all wonder why we cannot heal each other. I've been doing these late night talks all of a sudden for some reason, right? Because it's important that this is for the awakened. This knowledge is not for those who sleep. During the day, a lot of y'all are asleep. Y'all not watching. Y'all not paying attention. But you know, there's a passage somewhere where I read where it said that, you know, there's one who watches while the others sleep, and that's the ones who are awake, the ones who are woke, and the ones who are eyes are open and nothing gets past them. They're the ones who are going to catch this. So I go live at night because I know that this is for only those who are watching. Those who are watching on the surface, everything that people and the government, your system is trying to get by you. So the natural man and woman has lost their way. The reason why we cannot heal is because we lost our way and our connection to nature. We lost our way to our divine natural self. We lost our way to our divine consciousness and intelligence. So a lot of people are going to be lost in the world, and that's a real fact. They lost in the world because they're following a fake system. They're following the assimilation of the real world. See, the thing is, you got hook, line, and sinker. You got pulled out of the water, out of the rivers of life. You got pulled like a fish out of the rivers of life, out of your natural element, your environment, and you've been pulled into the assimilation. They pulled you out of the oceans and put you in a fish bowl and told you this is how you live. This is the way to live. So they hook, line, and sinkered you with all of this doctrine. They saturate your mind in these institutions called school, which is nothing but a box for you to go and continue to be stuck in. You stuck in a box. And so they institutionalize your mind with the education, with the media. That's why on social media, everything is getting filtered now. Everything is being censored now because it's too much truth out here that too many people are speaking too much of the time. So there's some truth out here that a lot of people are speaking, but it's going to get censored. But the truth that you are missing is the truth that you are disconnected from your natural self. See, we tend to think that if only I'm just spiritual, you know that you cannot get to being spiritual until you get back to your natural divinity. You cannot get to spirituality until you go through the vine of divinity. And the vine that you must go through is nature. You must go through nature. You must tap into the vine of nature to tap into your holiness. You must tap into the vine of nature to tap into your divinity. You got to tap into divine to tap into divine. You understand what I'm saying? You cannot get to spirituality without going through nature. You cannot get to yourself. Why? Because it's the reverse osmosis. You understand? You came here through nature, and the only way to get back to the substance of where you come from is through nature. The only way to get back to where you come from is through nature because you came through nature. You came through the soil. You came through the light. You came through the earth. You came from the waters. You came from the air. You came from the fire. You came from the substance of the natural environment around you. This is why you could go into the woods. This is why you can leave and go live in the jungle right now and survive because it was made and built for you to survive. Nature was made for you to use for your survival. It was made for you. For your survival. But you've gotten attached to the fake material things of this world. You've gotten attached to the things that disassociate you from your natural divinity. It took you off the vine and they just reproduced nothing but another modified organism, a GMO. So now all you are living is as a genetically materialistic organism. You're not a modified, you're a materialistic organism. You are living genetically materialistic. So everything that they tease you with, everything that they give you, you see what I'm saying? The things that are real, that we think are real, we believe are the things that matter, right? We think that having a house matter. We think that having a car matter. We think that having some type of actual substance matters. But look at the word matter. Material comes from matter comes from material. So we need something to matter. We have to have the material to feel like we matter or feel like life has meaning to it. Life has meaning to its existence. We begin to think that this is the way we matter in the world by having the things that man has created for us to have and think that these are the things that matter. But these things do not matter because all things that are spiritual are not material. It is not material. You got to look at the cycle of life. When you eat a piece of fruit or when you eat from nature, when you eat holy food, when you eat natural food, when you eat organic food, you give that back to the earth. And then that comes back. It goes back into the earth and reproduces itself as food again, feeding you. So it really goes nowhere. It really goes nowhere, and it really has nothing. There's really nothing or anywhere for it to go. But back into the existence of where it comes from. It stays in the existence of where it comes from. All it does is just pass through you. It goes back to the source, to the existence. When you go and give back, when you eat natural, holistic, organic, you eating, giving back to the planet, you eating, giving back to nature in a sense, where all things that you eat you don't eat something and it stays here. When you eat, it goes back to the earth. But because man has created a system of assimilation of life around us, they made us remember that we supposed to live in homes and square boxes, and we live in squares, which actually traps energy. We live in squares. Everything is a square. We learn in a square box in school. We sit in a square building in school. We live in a square home. Everything is boxed in, angled in, everything. And you see what I'm saying? These angles in your home and these corners that you turn and all of these things that are cutting off energy. Energy is supposed to naturally flow. It's the cycle of life. The cycle of life works in a roundabout. The cycle of life works in a roundabout way. There is no cutting, no angles, no turning, no corners to that. It works in a roundabout way. So when you eat, all you do is give back to the earth. The earth gives back to you. It's reproducing only to give back to you, and you give back to it. But we live in these square boxes and homes and go to square schools and drive square box cars and eat out of box cereal and pick our food out of a box refrigerator and cook on a square stove, and everything is nothing's giving back to nature. But you're supposed to cook your food in a fire, out on a fire. Everything that we need, nature gave us the substance to be able to do and survive. As I said, you go to the jungle right now and you got everything there you need to survive. There is nothing there you lack, because it was designed to create an existence for you. But you gotten caught up in the material world. You gotten caught up in things that quote unquote matter. So now the things that you think matter, because again, matter comes from the word material. And so you think matter has something to do with having things. And so these are the things that matter to you. Material. These are the material things matter because that's what it is. It's matter. But you cannot get back to your divinity. The natural man and woman has lost their way. This is why we cannot heal each other, because we're going two separate ways. We're going two separate ways. One believes this way, another believes that way, and nobody is in alignment with each other. This is why you will never become God. You'll never be one with the great harmonious alignment of the divine, your divine self, your mind, your highest self, your most divine consciousness. You will never be in touch with that, because you have confused what is real for what is fake for what is real. So again, you've been hook, line, and sinker. So they pulled you out of the ocean of life and put you in a fishbowl, and they made you believe that that's life. They made you believe that the fishbowl you live in is life. So you live in a fishbowl and you think that that's your existence. This is my existence. So we get pulled out of the natural realm. We get pulled out of, you cannot get back to spirituality. You will not get back. You can, I'm spiritual. No, you're not spiritual. If you're not eating right, you're not spiritual. If you're not living holistically, you're not spiritual. If you're not giving back to the planet, you're not spiritual. If you're not producing and giving back to the environment in the way it gets to you. This is what it means to be grateful. This is what it means to be thankful. When you are thankful, you give back. When you are grateful, you give back. But see, an ungrateful person doesn't give back because they're out of touch, out of sync, out of tune with who they naturally are. They don't know what it means to give back, because if they knew what it means to give back, they would understand that they get 10 times more. You get 10 times more from giving back. You understand that giving back gets you more. So I'm going to go ahead and eat naturally so that when I get ready to, when this food passes through me, I give it back to the earth the way it's supposed to come, the way it came in me. I give it back to my environment, and therefore I am creating a cycle that's going to reproduce for me a multitude multiplied in a quantum leaps, quantum bounds, an abundance of numbers. Everything that I get comes back to me tenfold. Everything that I get comes back to me hundredfold, because I'm grateful, I'm thankful, because I'm in touch with that part of myself. I'm in touch with my natural self, and that raises my consciousness to be aware of my environment. That raises my consciousness to be aware of my environment. Now that I'm aware of my environment, now I know how to live in tune and in harmony with my environment so that I reach a higher awareness. I reach a higher sense of divinity. And when we talk about divinity, we're talking about expansion. We're talking about an expansion of our mind. So the natural man and the natural woman has disassociated themselves from nature so much that they don't even know how to begin the process of healing themselves so that they can heal their children. And they can see, when you tap back into nature, you tap back into your spirituality, because you come from nature. You come through nature. You come from spirit, the source, which produces you through nature. You understand? And through the womb of this planet is nothing but an incubator, a womb of birthing life. But there's an inception somewhere. The planet is nothing but the womb. But there's an inception that happens somewhere else. The inception happens in spirit. And so if you understand how birthing works, how reproduction works, you would understand that through the inception happens through thought, happens through mind, happens through conception. Inception happens through conception, through thought form, through the mind. So through the mind, through conception, though I conceive, I receive, because I conceived in my mind the idea. And so through inception comes conception. So it all comes from thought. It all comes from mind. This is your higher self. When you tap back into your thought form, when you tap back into your thought form, you are conceptualizing, and thus you reproduce, you manifest whatever it is you desire. If it's health and healing, you can manifest healing. Through conception is the inception. Through conception is the inception. So through the conception, through the thought form, if I just think this way, I will birth this reality for myself. If I think this way, and all that does is the more you think like that, the more it pulls you and takes you up that ladder, up that rank, so that your mind becomes more expanded, and you have a higher sense of awareness of how much you can reach, how much you can do, how much you can heal, how much you can give, how much you can receive, because all it takes is for you to tap back into the divine mind, tap back into the vine. Man and woman has been separated from their divinity. And so you can't even conceive a thought, because every thought that you have comes from an assimilated world. So a fish living in a fishbowl cannot have a mindset of an ocean that is so expanded, because it lives in a fishbowl. But you take that fish out of a fishbowl, put it in the ocean, that fish will discover how much room there is, how much expansion there is on this planet for this fish to explore. And the oceans to that fish is the thought form of your mind. The oceans to that fish, Coming from a fishbowl, you coming from an assimilated world, opens the oceans up like it does to that fish. It opens and expands your mind more to believing and seeing and knowing that there is more. It's more of a knowing. It's knowing that there's more. And then once you know there's more, without having seen that there's more, but you just know that there's more, then your mind opens those doors for you to see more, expand more, grow more, reach more, go more. Now your mind is expanding because you know that there's more, because you've left the fishbowl. And just by knowing that there's more, your mind will open the door for you to explore in that world. You understand? And so you are disconnected. The natural man and woman has disconnected themselves from nature. And so they're living inside of a fishbowl, and the limitations to them, the height of reality for them is a beautiful house and home with a family and a car and a white fence and a dog and a retirement plan, and that's it. That's the fishbowl life. That's the fishbowl life. But those of us who live outside of that fishbowl, we live in an expanding world where we explore cultures and diversities and different ideas of people who come from different walks of life that can expand us. That's the ocean right there. Those people who are tapped into a more natural way, a more natural sense of loving and living and healing. But you gotten so confused, you gotten so lost, you gotten so connected to the assimilated world that you don't even know how to conceptualize. You don't even know how to conceive of a real natural world out there that is far more expansive for your mind. You don't even know how to conceive, meaning you don't even know how to fathom a thought. You don't even know how to fathom a thought to get there. How do I get there? Where do I start? Your mind ain't expanded enough to even know how to do that. So you don't even know how to get there yet. You don't even know how to expand your mind there yet. You can't expand. You're limited to expanding. You're limited to expansion. Because you live in a fishbowl. You disconnected yourself from your natural way of living. And so man and woman can never heal themselves until they begin to recognize individually their own divinity. So you will never be able to conceptualize, to even have an inception. You'll never be able to conceptualize. You'll never be able to have a thought to even have the birth of something to manifest in this world that's real. You'll never manifest something real because you don't even know how to conceptualize it yet. You're a fish in a fishbowl. The best example I can use. You don't even know that there's an expanding world, an expansion of life out there. You don't even know that there's an expansive world out there. You don't even know that because you're living in a fishbowl. And so your mind can't even conceptualize two fish talking to each other in the fishbowl. They're gonna be like, hey, what do you think about going over here and over there in parts of the world? They'll be like, what are you talking about? That doesn't even exist. What are you talking about? Go here, go there. Where are we gonna go? We're stuck and trapped in this little fishbowl right here. How can we get anywhere? We're stuck here. And so your mind is not connected to your natural divinity. And you say, oh, you spiritual, but you don't even eat right to be spiritual. And to eat right, it's not just by food. Physical food is not the only form of eating. Your environment. You eat from your environment. You eat from your environment. Those you surround yourself with, those you are surrounded by, those who are entering into your world, those who filter through your social media platforms, those who filter through your telephone and ring you up in your inbox and DM, those who you see, those who filter through is what you vibrated, what you drawn in, what you brought in. You've drawn that in. You've brought that in. And so you don't only eat from physical food, you eat from mental food, you eat from emotional food, you eat from spiritual food. So every time you eat on these levels, when you eat, you're eating from your environment, you're eating from the things you read, things you see, things, you absorbing all of that. You absorb all of that. See, a plant needs all of the elements to survive. It needs light, it needs water, it needs oxygen. If you starve that plant of one thing, it will die. If you starve that plant of oxygen, it will die. If you starve it of light, it will die. If you starve it of water, it will die. And you are no different. You need all of these things. You need spiritual food, physical food, mental food, emotional food. And if you are starved of either one, if you do not get either one, you will suffer in that area. This is what it means to live holistically, is to feed every part of your being, your spiritual, your mental, emotional, physiological body, your biological body. These are your bodies. These are bodies within themselves. These are bodies within themselves. These are what make up who you are holistic. This is what it means to be holistic, whole. What it means to be whole is to be able to feed all parts of your being. And if you starve one part of that, see, you don't just eat, you can't just say, well, I eat well. I eat vegan, or I eat natural, or I eat from the earth. That ain't the way that's going to heal you. The way you're going to heal is when you holistically feed all those parts of yourself. And if you do not heal through these parts of your being, if you do not tend to that woman or tend to that man mentally, if you starve him mentally or emotionally or physically or spiritually, you going to starve an area that will die. And so you can't connect back to your spirituality because you don't even know how to eat right yet. And you think eating right is just making sure that what you put in your mouth is the right stuff. But look in your environment. What did I say about the plant? A plant has to have an environment of light, of water, of oxygen for it to survive. If you starve one area of that plant's life, you are going to kill that plant. That plant needs every part of its natural environment to live. So what am I saying to you to do is that if you want to see yourself get back to a natural world, it isn't just let's run to nature. Although that is one of the keys to do it. You must get back into a natural environment. As I said, you are from nature. In order to get back to your spirituality, in order to get back to your most divine self, you have to go back through nature. The only way to get to your higher self, the only way to get back to your divinity is through nature. You cannot skip that part. You cannot skip that, because through conception, I'll say this again for you who just joined me. Through conception, through thought form, there was an inception. See, you cannot come into this manifestation if there is no conception of you, no thought. And then you cannot be manifested if there is no inception. So the conception creates the inception. The conception creates the inception. Through the inception, the planet is just a womb for inception. But there must be something conceptualized. Something had to conceptualize for there to be an inception. Something had to think of you. Something had to have a thought of you. You come from the conceptualized ideology of God. All things align harmoniously for your divinity to show up here. That's why I call God the great harmonious alignment of the divine. Because all things had to harmoniously align for you to join us here on this planet. All things had to align harmoniously for your divinity to show up. And you are not in tune, not in touch, out of key, out of rhythm, out of lock and step with your natural divine self. See, natural, divine. Natural gets you back to divinity. Nature gets you back to divinity. You are out of tune with your nature. You are out of tune with your divinity. So you cannot be spiritual. Talking about, oh, I eat right, so I'm spiritual. Everybody get this idea that if they just go ahead and become vegan, they're going to be spiritual. You know how many people that are vegan that are not spiritual? They just take up the lifestyle because they feel like eating right is just the way to go. They want to lose weight or get healthy. But most people that go back to nature through veganism, plant-based eating, holistic eating, natural eating, awakens to their divinity. Because that's the way to your divine self. That is the way to your divinity. Most people that go plant-based, go vegan, usually wake up to their divinity, to their power, to their truth. Because nature connects you back to your divinity. Nature connects you back to that thought form where you can go back there and create from that source of power. That thought form is your power. So when you go back to that source, you're going back to your creative power. That's why one of the 5 laws of holistics is arts. Using arts to create power. Arts is your creative power. Arts is your creative genius. Arts is your creative power. You use arts. You use the substance of painting to speak a powerful, magnetic, loud word without having to say anything verbally. You use dance to communicate. You use drums to carry a sound of energy. You use singing to uplift. You use poetry to empower. The arts is the expression of the power that lies within every one of us when we go back to the creative thought form. The thought form. And from the thought form, do we become more creative? Do we become our creative selves? So the 5 laws of holistics I lay out. The 5th law is arts. You got to know how to tap back into the art form because that is the creative power form. So let me wrap this up by saying, when you go back to your divinity, to get back to your divinity, it is through nature. Veganism, plant-based, helps people get there, but you don't need to, that don't need to be the first thing you take up to get there. It's literally just through thought. And through thought, through thinking, through thought form, through the thought form, through believing, through the thought form of belief, through the belief, when you say, I am God, you awaken something within you. And it channels you to portal through even faster to higher dimensions of self. And you begin to awaken on a whole new level. Because it's the fish leaving the fishbowl going to the ocean. Now you can see all things expanding. Even though you can't physically see them, it's just a knowing. It's knowing that there's more. It's knowing that you are expanded. Because the world is expanded. And so now your thought carries forth. Your thought carries into the etheric realm. Where there is no time existence. There's only space. And so your thought form goes deep, far into beyond space. Like the TV show Star Trek, it always say a deep voyage. A starship enterprise where no man has gone before. No man has gone before because it is only through your thought do you get there on the individual. No man is gone where you go. Because where you go is far more expanded than your world and reality that you believe in right now. And only you can see how far you go once you leave the fishbowl. Only you can see that. It's a deep voyage that one goes on. It's a deep voyage that one can't even fathom the idea, but just through knowing there's more, your mind, the universe opens the door. You may not can see how far, but you know there's more. And you tap back into your divine self, man and woman do, when they get back to their natural divinity. Yes, again, I'm going to say this again. Eating vegan, eating plant-based starts the journey. It gets you there, but you eat on more than one level. Don't just think veganism gets you there. Alkaline diet gets you there. Because you eat through many forms. You eat on the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical level. You eat from your environment. And your life transcends this realm because now you tapped into that art form, that creative power. You tapped into the art form, the portion of self where you are creating and manifesting just from thought. Just from having thought. You are creating and manifesting. Through conception comes the inception. You understand? The planet is just a womb for the manifestation of thought, of conception. The planet is just the incubator that holds life. But any woman and every woman knows that in order for there to be life, in order for there to be life in the womb, in inception, there must be in conception. So there must be a thought of life. And because you are life, tapped into life, everything has a lot to do with life. Everything has everything to do with life because you are life. But they've confused you and made you believe that the material world, these things have everything to do with life. So you live in a fishbowl, awaiting to your retirement, working 40 years for $40,000 a year. And then you get to the end of your life, and that's it. You go to a box in the grave. You lived in boxes all your life. So you go to a box in the grave. The way that the natural man and woman must heal themselves is that they cannot be talking. You cannot talk in generalities, especially around me. You got to have an expanded mind for me. You got to have an expanded mind. Your mind got to go beyond this realm and this reality of life, because I see past the physical form. And people say, oh, how do you be so spiritual? Or how do you become spiritual? How do one get spiritual? You got to go back through nature. Nature or the natural world is only the inception of life, the incubator, the womb. But to get back to the conception, which is the thought, you got to go through nature, which is where the inception, which is where the conception created the inception. So to get back to conception, you got to go back through inception. I remember a biblical passage, where he asked the prophet Christ, he said, how can one be born again? Must he enter the womb of his mother? And he said, no, you cannot re-enter the womb of your mother. You must be born again of the Spirit. How can you be born of the Spirit? You can only be born of the Spirit. You can only get back to your divine self. You can only get back to spirit You must you must give up your life, quote unquote, the material world. You must give up this assimilation. As the same passage, he asked him, he said, how do I become born again? Before he asked him, must I re-enter the womb of my mother? He first asked the Christ, he said, how can one be born again? And the Christ told him, give up all of your things, sell everything. And it says that he walked away in grief because he couldn't depart from that stuff. He walked away in grief because he could not separate himself from his things. So he asked him, how can one be born again? He said, must I enter the womb of my mother? No, you must be born of the Spirit. How do I do that? You got to give up everything. You got to give up your things. If you don't want to give up your things, you will not be born of the Spirit. You cannot become God. You cannot get back to divinity. You will not get back to the greatest form of yourself. It is not through the womb do you go back into to be God. It is not through the womb, but it is through nature. It is through giving up the fake world for the natural world, which connects you back to spirit. So he told him, you must be born of water. Here's a man that comes who is born of water. Water. A natural element. Here one comes who is born of the Spirit and of water. You got to be born of water. You got to be born. You got to go back through nature. As you see also in the same in these biblical passages that speaks of the Christ, you see that the Christ walked through fire. They showed Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. He walked through the fire. He walked through, he was born of the water, everything pointing back to you. That he's tapping back into his natural self to get back to God. He got back to God, but God is the great harmonious alignment. Everything, you got to get back in alignment. You got to get back in alignment. That's the only way back to your divinity. Getting back in alignment is getting back to nature. Nature brings you in alignment with spirit. So if you're not going back, getting back, tapped into nature, you're not getting back to spirit. You claim spirituality all you want, but you're not getting back to spirit. You got to get to the water. You got to go through the fire. You got to go through nature. You got to go through the earth. You got to go through the energies of this planet that reminds you of who you are. I know who I am. Who are you? What life you living? Are you living a lie? Are you living a lie? Thinking that this world is the real world? This ain't the real world. This ain't the real world. The real world you can't see even though it's right in front of you. So you drive your fancy, go ahead, drive your fancy car and live your fancy life, and that's fine. And I know you be like, oh, all of us gonna die anyway. Yeah, all of us gonna die, but not all of us gonna return back to the source. Yeah, we all gotta go, but not everybody's gonna return to the source. Why? This is why you got spirit mediums here. What's the job of a spirit medium? To make contact and communicate with the spirit world. But they're not making contact and communicating with the most divine beings of the spirit world because they've ascended. They're making contact with those who were of the lower density form. So the spirit medium, this is why I tell people about these certain type of practices. Some of these practices are not the natural practice, but because you can do that, because you tapped into that, you're tapping into a dense energy. You're tapping into a heavy, dense energy. So when you think that we all got to die anyway, we might as well just go ahead and live our life. Live. What this is saying? YOLO. You only live once, so go ahead and live it up. Yeah, but all of us, we all live once in the physical realm, but not all of us is going to return back to the spiritual realm. Some of us are going to go, some of us are going to stay here, some of us are going to go on. And I don't want to stay here. Because once I've seen everything this life has to offer, I don't want to know, I don't need to know any more of what it has to offer. I want to go on to the next life. I want to go on to the next realm. I want to know what's going on the other side. I want to go on to the next. Once I've lived my life here, I don't need to see any more of it. It's a repeat cycle that I know that's about to play out. Man and woman are not going to heal themselves unless they get back to the divine nature. You're disconnected and disassociated. You don't even know who you are. You can't be trusted around spiritual beings like myself, because your mindset is going to go right back to the assimilation of this planet. And you're a tree that doesn't bear any fruit to me. So you're going to have to be cut off. Because me and you are not going to the same place. You make contact. You make contact with spiritual beings here. That's cool. Right? Your spirit mediums, their job is to make contact with spirit. But those are low density beings that they make in contact with. Those are not the ascended beings. Those are not the true ascended masters that master life. Those are not the ascended beings. The ascended beings have moved on. The ascended beings are gone. Beings have moved on in life. If you want to become ascended in the next realm, stop living this fake life. All right? Appreciate y'all being here. Listen, I'm going to be back with these late night talks again, because y'all need to understand the reality of what y'all living. And y'all need to be smacked in the face with it, because you'll never heal. You want to heal, but you can't heal because you're not tapped into the source of healing, where it comes from, where it's at. You're missing it. And we want to run to the jungle. We want to run to nature. We want to run to the natural environment. But you got to create a natural environment first within, so that your atmosphere reflects your biosphere. You got to create the natural environment within. Because nature is not chaotic. There's no chaos in nature. Nature doesn't display chaos. Nature doesn't display chaos. So if you do not show any sign of getting tapped into nature, you're going to show all signs of chaos in your life. And the only way to get back, one of the ways to get back to nature, here it is, and I'm going to be done. You got to give up you got to give up caring about what you're going to lose and where it might have you at, where you might end up at. At some point in time, you got to sacrifice. You got to say, you know what? I'm just going to pick up and leave. I don't care where I end up. I don't care where I end up. I'm about to just pick up and go. I don't care where I end up with this, but I'm gone. And you too scared to do that, not thinking that nature. See, you get bought into I have to go for a little bit real quick. See, you bought into the assimilated world. The assimilated world got you believing that if you do this, here's the fear, and this is going to you're going to be in fear of this. If you just up and leave like this, beloved, trust me, it's not going to be safe for you. You ain't going to know where you're going. You so afraid to be out in the open. You so afraid to be out in the elements. You so afraid to be out there and exposed and vulnerable, because you just made a decision to up and leave, not believing that anywhere you go, wherever you go, that somebody there will take care of you. Somebody there will make sure you straight. Somebody there will put a hand out. But the reason you don't believe that is because you don't put a hand out. You don't give. And because you don't give, and you're not grateful and you're not thankful, you don't believe that the planet can give back to you. See, I do a lot of giving. So I believe in wherever I go, I'll receive, because I know that I do a lot of giving. I know that's how the planet works. And because I do a lot of giving, I understand that I'm going to get back, because I believe in that form. I believe in the form of giving. I believe that others are like me out there that are willing to give. I believe others are like me out there, beings who are willing to give. Because I give so much, I believe that there's others out there who are willing to give just as much, if not more. And so you know who I run into, you know who I connect to, you know who I align myself with, you know who I find myself coming in contact with? Those who believe and think like me. Those who give like I give. Those who are willing to give like I give. Those who are willing to serve like I serve. Those who are willing, and see, you don't do that. You don't give. So you don't believe up and leaving and getting back to a natural way of life. You don't believe that the planet, that the others and you don't believe that you will align with divine like-minded beings. You don't believe that. And so you walk and live in fear. You are fearful of leaving. You are fearful of getting up, going. You are fearful of breaking away. You are fearful of moving forward. You are fearful of taking that leap and taking that chance. So you will never heal. You will never heal your children. You'll never, because how can you impute the information in your children to do things like that if you don't do things like that for yourself? You see, my daughter, she's 17 years old. My daughter did something that most of y'all ain't even done yet. My daughter got a passport. At 14 years old, she got a passport. My daughter got a passport at 14 years old. Let me tell you something. My daughter went to Peru without no guidance. How can a 14-year-old do such a thing like that? Because I didn't instill fear in her. I didn't tell her, baby, it's going to be scary when you go over there. You don't know who it is you're going to meet over there. But I told her, go ahead. If that's where life is calling you to go, do that. She believed with encouragement and inspiration. And that's because I lived that life. You see, I healed me, so my daughter is healed. Because I take those chances and opportunities. The natural man and woman cannot heal themselves, cannot return back to the divine nature, because they're not even starting the process of healing themselves. And because I've healed myself through these aspects of my divine self, my spirit, emotional, mental, physiological, biological, because I've healed these aspects of myself, I'm not afraid. There's not one fear in any part of me. There's not one fear where I put in my children, my daughter, and say, no, don't do that. No, everything that comes to me in thought comes from good, comes with good intention, comes from love, comes from a place of peace, comes from a place of a whole heart. Because when I speak to her, I tell her, baby, you go do that. Because it's already imputed in me. The knowledge has already been imputed in me. So because I'm healed, my daughter is healed. So my daughter doesn't believe. My daughter would never believe in the fear of getting up and going and leaving and doing something and dropping something off, letting something go. She'll never have that part of herself because she knows what is. She jumped out of she never even entered the fishbowl of life because I never let her. Early on, when she had the idea to understand, I gave her the knowledge, and my daughter went on by herself to go to a whole nother country. At 14 years old. She's 17 now. You see? She's about to be 18 in September. See, some of you don't even know how to think beyond because you're tapped into an assimilated world. My daughter eyes was open very young. My daughter eyes was open. And when she got old enough to understand what the knowledge I was teaching her, there was no such thing as fear for her. There's no such thing as fear. It didn't exist. A lot of you are afraid to move. Afraid to just say, you know what? I'm leaving all this mess behind. Everything that I've accumulated. Everything that I've accumulated. My furniture, my car, my home, everything. I'm just leaving. I'm dropping it off. Here, I'm just letting it go. You don't want to do that. I ain't saying just drop it. I ain't saying don't sell it. I ain't saying don't try to get some money for it so you can better your way as you go. But I am saying this. You don't have to be in fear if you do it that way. If you just decide to just say, I'm just leaving it all behind. Without selling one piece of it. You can go without selling one piece of it. I ain't saying don't sell it. I ain't saying don't liquidate. I ain't saying don't try to get some money for what you the part. But what I am saying is you can do that too. To get back to your natural self. And this is the way to heal, beloved. You are not going to heal if you are attached to this assimilation. There's no such thing. You have to create the reverse osmosis. That means you have to go backwards to get back to your divine self. You have to go backwards. You have to go back through inception to conception. Because you come from conception into the inception manifest. Now you manifest it here. So we got to reverse osmosis. We got to go backwards. We got to go the other way. This is the only way to heal. This is the only way to nature. This is the only way to divine self. This is the only way to knowing that all things work for my good. And like I said before, because you don't give good, because you don't give, you don't believe in others giving. If you start giving, you'll know that there's a world out there ready to give back to you. Because there's people that live in that space, especially people, most of the time, the people that give to me, the people that do for me, most of the time, these are people that are not even from the country I'm from. Most of the people that give to me were not born of this culture, of this country. Most of the people that help me, most of the people that aid me, most of the people that help me get going are not people from a assimilated world. These are people from a world where there's communion, there's community, and there's unity. There's oneness with all things in their surrounding environment. The people that give to me, that serve me, these are people that are not even born of this American standardized cultural thinking. So the natural man and woman, you're never going to heal yourself because you're born of an American standardized thinking. So every conceptualized thought that you have comes with a limitation on it. It comes with a ceiling on it. It comes with I can't really see us doing that because what happens if I don't pay my rent? Screw paying your rent. You understand? Get out of that. Let it go. Are you afraid to let it go? I'll let everything go. And I've told people this, but I'll let all this go. It can all go. I'll let it all go. Why? Because I can get it all again. It's all material. It's all going to go to waste. It's all going to go to somebody else or to the dumpster. It doesn't matter. Somebody's going to collect this mess when I leave here. When I get ready to transcend to my highest, to my higher self on the other side of this physical realm. Somebody's going to take all of this, auction it off, sell it off, keep it for themselves, whatever. I don't care for it. And the way you get back to healing is when you'll get back to healing, when you ready, when you make up your mind and you say you ready to let it all go. And don't say I'm ready to let it all go. No, you got to know that I am ready. This is it. I'm done. It's all done. And you do whatever you got to do to move to that next phase of your life. You got to say it's done. I'm done. It's over. I don't need it no more. I'm done with it. Peace. See it later. See y'all later. Everybody, everything. Adios. It's got to go. It'll go when you're ready for it to go. But as long as you're not ready for it to go, you'll never go. Because it's a ball and chain to you. How can a natural man and woman heal themselves? Get back to a natural way. And stop playing into this fishbowl of life. Stop playing into this assimilated world. Stop playing into the assimilation of the life that you've been given and handed. I love you. I love me. I love us. Be well, be loved, and be light. And always remember, live from the soul. Okay? This is your urban luminary, Omaka the light messenger. I'll see y'all again. Peace.